Ivy Valentine subscribes to Mark Yoon. So should you. Enjoy your treat!
Hey, what's up guys? So at Summer Games Fest, we got an awesome new Sparking Zero trailer that dropped, and it does highlight some of the concerns that I keep on having. We did get a release date, but there are some other good things that I actually wanted to talk about today also that came from that. So besides the most notable aspect of the trailer, which is obviously the release date, which is October 11th, 2024, I am pretty happy with that. But there comes consequences when we're actually having this conversation about release date and DLC and whatnot, and those are a few of the things that I want to address today. A lot of the things that we keep getting from these trailers are character reveals, though some of them we're not sure about whether they're team ultimates or something akin to that. We're not exactly sure how they play or fit into these roles, but we do see these characters. So they're going to be in the game in some way or another. Whether they're playable or not is a totally different story that we don't know about yet, but when we get closer, we'll obviously find out more new things. Now, we did see like Goku Black, we saw Bardock, there's a bunch of other characters that showed up that we see. We keep seeing 17. There's just a lot there. Among them being Mr. Boo and things like Semi-Perfect Cell, which transformations do count as characters, and that's where I want to talk about my main problem with this trailer. The problem that I have is that it seems like we're going straight forward into super territory and we're not veering off that much. I've seen people say, well, Mark, we just got to reveal future Gohan, and Bardock is in this trailer, so that means that movie characters are all but guaranteed. And that's not the case just because they're from OVAs. So original video adaptations are actually extensions of manga, extensions of anime itself. So it's not necessarily a movie and it doesn't require a different license. It's an extension of the anime. They don't have the same license requirements or agreements or rights that they need for like Toei Animation or any other outside sources when it comes to specific things like the movies, like let's say Cooler's Revenge, for example. So they wouldn't necessarily be put in them. Broly technically would because of Super Broly, but as we've seen most recently in the manga and some other adaptations, he is actually a part of the crew now and does actually show up in the manga and anime, so I don't even know if I necessarily consider him to be movie as well. Like, even though his origins are in movie, it's a similar situation to Beerus. Beerus' origin were in the movies, but now that he's part of the main cast in the regular animation, I don't think they require any special licensing from anyone to do so because the anime already has license rights to do that, and they already have the acquired distribution rights or license fees or usages to actually use those characters in the games. It is disconcerting that we're still not seeing any other movie stuff, especially like crazy movie characters that are like super popular. I would venture to say like you should have at least seen like, let's say, Cooler or something by example, but there's not. I mean, it's a perfect obvious way to have them in the game now that we have like giants that are fully playable because you have like Dr. Wheeler, Lord Slug. There's a vast amount of Metacooler, like his giant form. There's a vast amount of things that you can actually do with that system, and I think they are lending to that. But the problem that I'm having is like this DLC, the way they're talking about it, and their release schedule. So it has a release thing that talks about the DLC that are coming up, and it says Season 1, and then DLC Packs 1, 2, and 3. And it mentions specifically Dragon Ball Super Superhero, which has its own license, and then Dragon Ball Daima. So those are the 20 plus characters that we're going to be getting in the pack. And you hear 20 plus and you're like, wow, alright, cool, so we're going to be getting all these cool obscure characters. But if you think about it, you're really not. They do count characters as different transformations, so it's not a singular character and then they have their forms. In Tenkaichi, the way that Spike Chunsoft does things is Goku is one character, Super Saiyan Goku is a totally different character, Super Saiyan 2 Goku is a totally different character. That's how they do it. And if you're looking about Dragon Ball Super Superhero, we already have Piccolo, Orange Piccolo, Gohan, Super Saiyan Gohan, Ultimate Gohan, Gohan Beast Form, Pan, Gamma, Gamma 2, and Cell. That's already 10 characters right there, and they're saying that these packs are going to have a listing of 20 characters. So that's 10 characters right there that already takes up half of those seasons just for the main characters of Dragon Ball Super Superhero. So if we're going to be getting any more into that, then they also have Daima, which probably is making up the other 10. So that first year of DLC that we're getting in packs 1, 2, and 3 of DLC Season 1 are just going to consist of Dragon Ball Super Superhero and whatever characters for Daima that they actually put out, which I'm hoping is just not other chibi forms of like the main cast, which it probably is going to be. I hope that some of the villains make it in there too, but I'm not too keen on looking out for that because we don't know whether or not Goku or the others turn Super Saiyan in that series yet, but it does show that we're going to have the main cast as chibi forms too, so those are going to be the Daima characters right there. Well, the next thing that you would want to get to would be what? It would probably be the movies, right? So if we're doing this season, so next year, a year out from what we're talking about after all the Season 1 DLC is done, we're probably going to be getting Season 2. And that's where I think the bulk of the movies are going to come into play. And if we're going to have like a similar kind of bulk set with like a Season 2 and then a DLC pack 1, 2, and 3, we're probably going to be having like very few characters from the movies that just make up different characters from those movies. So you would get characters like, let's say, the different version of Super Saiyan Gogeta, or the Janemba, or Giant Form Hirudegarn, and then other Giant Form Hirudegarn, or Tapion, or any of those vast amount of characters from the movies, Bojack, any of them. That's probably going to be the vast majority of that entire year is going to be dedicated to the 20-something characters from the movies that we're probably going to see. And then year 3, if we get to year 3, would be where I see GT happening. So the problem here lies is that GT, which is awesome, I mean, everyone loves Super Saiyan 4 and stuff, right, is going to be pushed so far out to Season 3 that now we're talking about, what, 2026 maybe, starting to get this season stuff for that, if we're even getting it at all. That's another thing, is like, we're not guaranteed to be getting GT. Just because GT was in Tenkaichi like 1, 2, and 3 doesn't necessarily mean that it's going to make it here. I mean, there are other Spike Chunsoft games where GT didn't make it in. Ultimate Tenkaichi did have 2 GT characters, but it was very limited. It was Super Saiyan 4 Gogeta and Omega Shenron, so there's not exactly a whole lot to do with doing there, but their encounters with Raging Blast and Raging Blast 2 had none whatsoever. Even Raging Blast 1 only had like a few movie characters, I believe. I think it was like Bardock and Broly. There's not much there. Tenkaichi Tag Team on the PSP didn't have any. So we're looking at now the last real incarnation and showing of characters was Tenkaichi 3. Now the developers do claim that this is a direct sequel to Tenkaichi 3, and it's notwithstanding Raging Blast and Raging Blast 2, because those were considered spiritual successors to the Tenkaichi series, and they do have different movesets, even though they utilize a lot of the same assets that Tenkaichi series does. And we're seeing remnants of that actually in the movesets for the characters in Sparking Zero as well. There's a lot of going on that makes me a little bit worried or confused as to what role GT is going to play. And I guess the best that I can hope for is that year 2 is movies/GT, and we're actually going to have the different forms of the GT characters. Because realize that that's not just saying Super Saiyan 4 Goku, Vegeta, and Vegeta, right? That is GT Kid Goku, GT Kid Goku Super Saiyan, GT Kid Goku Super Saiyan 3, Super Saiyan 4, Trunks GT, Trunks GT Super Saiyan, Pan GT. Like, these will all be completely separate characters, and just naming those characters that I just named is like 6, 7 characters, so it's kind of hard to really put that into perspective unless we're just getting the Super Saiyan 4 transformations, not their GT versions. And then we get the characters like, you know, Baby, Super 17, Sin Shenron, Omega Shenron, Nova Ice, stuff like that. I'm not exactly sure if, like, they're going to go into that, but my hope is that they do, because this game looks really cool. The story looks really cool, which is where I also wanted to get into right here. I don't want to just make this about character roster and DLC. One thing I am excited about is the story mode. So I was pleasantly surprised when I saw some of the cinematics and trailers Summer Games Fest, and they were going to kind of what-if scenarios, and it wasn't just one. Like, if you see that little hinkling in the first part, which I'll show on the screen, you see that Piccolo is choosing to go at it, or Goku is choosing to go at it alone, or to team up with Piccolo, like he does canonically. And this little Raditz pops over when you're going to, like, the what-if scenario, and it seems like every what-if scenario is going to be kind of baked into the story mode itself. I'm not sure if there's going to be extras or a separate section for others that are drastically different, but it's showing this, not only that, and I don't know if it's like just one section and then the rest of the story changes from there, or if you're doing it for every single chapter. Because in the very next chapter, when we see Great Ape Vegeta, we see him stepping on Krillin, and then we see Goku getting extremely mad that Vegeta is trying to, you know, end in Minecraft Krillin, and he turns into a Super Saiyan in the Saiyan Saga, which obviously never happened, which is a cool idea that I never even contemplated before. I don't know why I haven't, but that so cool idea is definitely something that we can see, and I'm looking forward to seeing, and that implies that what-ifs are going to be a part of every single chapter. that really also makes me want GT characters in here. Not only GT characters in story, going past Super and whatnot, but also I really, really want to see the movie stuff. Because some changes that they can actually have to those functionalities of those modes is amazing. Like, the endless possibilities are there. And there is like a little tiny blurb that I will show from the website that my friend Shad, who's a game developer, gave me. And it says that, like, you're pretty much choosing your own path in the story, and it's up to you, like, what happens kind of thing. So that implies that what ifs are, like I said, more so baked in. What I was just, like, a little bit suspicious of when it comes to that is that, like, we're not going to really have too much outside of, like, a one-to-one scenario option. So let's say that the Vegeta saga, we are fighting Vegeta in the Saiyan saga, and Goku turns into a Super Saiyan as par from one of your choices. And then instead of you going Super Saiyan and letting Vegeta live, you get rid of him, and then the rest of the series, there's no Vegeta. I don't think they do something as crazy as that, because then, like, the whole rest of the story would be, like, super wonky, and then you're getting into, like, Dragon Ball Heroes type territory. What I think it's more so doing is, like, each per chapter, the choices that you make are not going to carry on. Every single chapter is going to be canon, and then you can have a fun what-if battle within that canon if you so choose to do so. I'm not exactly sure if that's going to carry over. I don't see it happening that way, and I don't really think it would happen that way. Like, for example, let's say in the Buu saga, when they're done gathering energy, Spofich and Yamu, for Majin Buu's revival, they put it in a chamber, and, you know, Fat Buu comes out, and instead of, you know, choosing to become Majin Vegeta and fighting against Buu himself after his fight with Goku, what if, you know, he doesn't fight Goku? Or what if you're Goku in that scenario, and it says, transform into a Super Saiyan 3, or show Vegeta your true power, and you immediately just, like, crush his dreams and hopes of ever having a chance against you, so you just go off and you go to fight Buu immediately, and then Buu doesn't even ever achieve his, like, Super Buu form or whatever. You know, there's, like, a lot of things like that that can be intricate and cool and fun, and a lot of things that I'm looking forward to seeing when it comes to that. I love what-if scenarios. I don't know if, like, a lot of other Dragon Ball fans would admit this, but, like, we've been playing the same games constantly over and 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 over again since, like, Infinite Adaptatum, like, Absurdum, Infinite Absurdum. It goes back to the very first games, and it's really fun to see these kind of what-if scenarios play out. I can personally tell you that, like, my favorite Tenkaichi game is probably Tenkaichi 2, not because there's less characters or anything, I think the story mode's better, but the what-if scenarios in that are excellent, where it's like, what if Raditz hit his head and forgot that he was on Earth for a mission, and, like, him and Goku, like, team up and do stuff together? That was, like, a really amazing what-if scenario, especially for a Raditz fan like myself. So seeing other things like that and having the potential of having these stories be told in such a way that is new to us and fresh to us while still, like, realizing the canon of the actual show itself is just really fun. Now, I do think that, like, some of those things come into play when it comes to what-if characters as well, because Tenkaichi is known for having its what-if characters. Well, not so much Tenkaichi itself, but more so Spike Chunsoft. For example, if you've played Raging Blast 1 and 2, you actually get to play as Super Saiyan 3 Vegeta and Super Saiyan 3 Broly. Now, I'm not exactly sure if they're going to be doing stuff like that, or if those characters are even going to come over, because it seems like we're getting a lot of characters cut. When I was talking about the roster before, I didn't even mention Dragon Ball. And Dragon Ball is a big part of the series. It's what the titular name of the entire show is based off of, you know what I mean? So not having, like, we're not even talking about, like, Devilman and, like, Arale and stuff like that. We're talking more about, like, Kid Goku, General Blue, like, maybe even General Black, like, maybe Red and, like, a robot doing, like, a giant thing. Pilaf, like, there's so much potential there for extra characters that they did actually explore in Tenkaichi 3 that it's going to be a shame if we lose out on that. Like, I understand that Z is the most popular iteration of Dragon Ball. I don't believe Super has surpassed its popularity that I'm aware of. Myself, as a fan of GT, exponentially, I think that, like, it's a shame if we don't get to see the extra added scenarios of the story that maybe not so many people have experienced before or experienced in a different way. Anyway, I don't want to ramble on too much and keep on telling you my thoughts about personal. I just want to let you know about the DLC roster possible layout and, like, what that's going to look like as opposed to getting those things. Now, I do want to hear from you in the comment section down below or on my Discord, and I do want to talk about these kind of things, but I do also want to postulate a question to you that I'm going to put in the community tab that I'm going to talk about my next Dragon Ball Super Sparking Zero video, and that is, do you think that they are going to explore Dragon Ball and Dragon Ball GT or the movies in these season passes, or are we just sticking with what's pretty much known as the super canon, so the super movies and all that stuff? Any thoughts are always welcome in the comment section down below. And as I always say, guys, I love it. Thank you.
And thank you.